Actualmente estoy asistiendo a la universidad, estudiando. Recientemente regresé a casa por un asunto familiar, pero permítanme retroceder un poco. Durante mi último año de secundaria estaba en la biblioteca durante un período de estudio supervisado, realizando algunas tareas de programación en una computadora, ya que mi computadora portátil de casa no tenía instalado el entorno de programación necesario. De todos modos, un chico que compartía mi clase tomó el puesto de trabajo adyacente al mío, ya que estas máquinas en particular eran las únicas equipadas con el software requerido. Era un individuo larguirucho, bastante pálido. Tenía el cabello oscuro y desgreñado que le cubría uno de los ojos. Llevaba una camiseta de banda, un chaleco vaquero desgastado y botas militares desgastadas. Nunca hablaba con nadie durante las clases y nunca lo había visto asociado con nadie más. Así que tomé mi asiento y él levantó la vista. Su expresión transmitía una profunda irritación, como si yo acabara de cometer una grave ofensa. Rápidamente desvié la mirada y comencé a revolver mi mochila para parecer ocupado como distracción. Con la cabeza baja, lo oí reírse entre dientes y luego murmurar: «Por supuesto». Me congelé con la cabeza aún inclinada hacia mi mochila. Simplemente lo achacé a las frustraciones que a menudo se encuentran con la programación, decidiendo que estaba hablando con la máquina. Me senté de nuevo y apresuradamente ingresé mis credenciales buscando disipar la tensión. Para romper la incomodidad comenté: «El instructor realmente carga con las tareas. Es difícil mantenerse al día». Su mirada permaneció fija en la pantalla. Dijo: «¿Quieres las soluciones, verdad?». Me reí y respondí: «No, gracias, no aprendería nada así. Normalmente podría haber aceptado, but I didn't want to experience that unsettling gaze again. It seemed to peer right through me». He let out that unsettling chuckle once more, so creepy that I felt compelled to close my eyes and wince. I opened them and looked over only to see he was gone. The peculiar thing was he had left his portable drive behind. I waited for about a quarter hour to see if he might return, but he didn't. The study period concluded at 1 p.m. and it was then 12:50. I decided I would take it and give it back to him the following day in our programming class. I stashed it in a small container on a shelf over my sleeping area. I must admit it was a cool drive. It had a unique design resembling a miniature key with the data storage in the center. Here's the odd part. After that day, he never attended school again. He was known for frequently missing class, so for the initial month no one paid it much mind. However, when late spring arrived and we were all preparing for graduation, I had completely forgotten about the portable drive until a couple of days back when I came home. I needed one and recalled I still possessed that boy's. I ran a check with my virus scanner and it indicated it was entirely safe. Naturally, I intended to erase everything on it so I could put my presentation for a general subject course on it. Instead, however, I started exploring the data stored on it. The first thing I saw was a directory labeled Programming Solutions. I opened it and it contained solutions for all the coursework. I thought, well, maybe that's why he left it, so I could copy from him, perhaps because he knew he wasn't coming back. I went back, and another folder held audio tracks. I felt compelled to open that one to see what kind of sound he listened to. Contrary to what one might assume, there were only 3 songs. Something moody, something psychedelic, and a track by a classic rock band known for chaos. I went back again. There was a folder without a designation. Inside it was something labeled Advanced Literature. There were numerous papers and miscellaneous items. There was one called Untitled Manuscript. I opened it, and it was simply a multi-page file composed of scanned, handwritten notes covering several pages of lined paper, filled entirely with repetitions of his surname. I went back again. This is the point where things turned strange. He had taken images of the evacuation diagrams displayed on the door in every classroom. There was a picture of a discarded cigarette butt on the lavatory tiles and another image of spare change scattered on the restroom floor with a small note attached proclaiming petty cash in block capitals. Now here's the truly peculiar part. There was a photograph featuring me, captured as I was engrossed in reading in a class. From the look of it, it was a different subject, one he wasn't enrolled in. There was also a file named Final Thoughts, but it contained no information when I opened it. I still remain unsure if this was some sort of prank or not. For all I know, he never showed up again simply because he realized he had misplaced his portable storage device. Un evento de hace varios años involucró a mí mismo y a una amiga a la que me referiré como Sara. Actualmente estamos en nuestra adolescencia intermedia, lo que significa que teníamos 12 o 13 años cuando esto sucedió. Sara y yo nos conocemos desde principios de primaria y éramos inseparables, pasando la mayoría de los fines de semana y el tiempo libre juntas. Constantemente sentíamos una fascinación por lo sobrenatural y los fenómenos espectrales. Estábamos convencidas de que cada vivienda en la que entrábamos albergaba espíritus. Realizábamos investigaciones amateur imitando programas de televisión paranormales, utilizando un dispositivo móvil básico para capturar posibles anomalías de audio. Sin embargo, siempre habrá una noche en particular que se destaque para mí, una que todavía me afecta hasta el día de hoy. Eran alrededor de la medianoche, y estábamos enérgicas y completamente despiertas, típico de niños de nuestra edad los fines de semana. Así que decidimos realizar otra búsqueda de espíritus en mi casa. Preparamos la grabadora de audio y aseguramos la cámara digital de mi padre para filmar el procedimiento. Esto resultó ser la única ocasión en que utilizamos ese equipo en particular. El sótano de mi casa era bastante poco convencional, principalmente porque la vivienda era bastante antigua, lo que le confería un carácter distintamente vintage. Así, al bajar las escaleras, se entraba en un área principal expansiva que servía de almacenamiento. Más allá de eso, una sala de tamaño moderado albergaba los electrodomésticos de lavandería. Al fondo de todo había un espacio diminuto y confinado, similar a una pequeña celda que permanecía sin usar, principalmente debido a su atmósfera inquietante que disuadía a todos. Sara y yo bajamos las escaleras, activamos tanto la cámara como el dispositivo de grabación de audio y comenzamos a hacer las preguntas estándar típicas de este tipo de búsquedas. Preguntas como ¿hay alguien presente? O proporcione alguna indicación de su presencia, se hicieron. Finalmente, nos cansamos de la actividad y nos retiramos a mi habitación privada arriba, ansiosas con anticipación mientras revisábamos nuestra primera captura de video. Este fue un desarrollo significativo, dada nuestra fuerte deseo de convertirnos en investigadoras paranormales. Vimos y sentimos un grado de decepción al no encontrar nada digno de mención en las grabaciones visuales o de audio. Ordinariamente podríamos inventar alguna anomalía, como un sonido o una sombra que no fuera nuestra, para sentirnos menos decepcionadas, but on this occasion our excitement was too palpable, and we didn't even want to fabricate anything. We couldn't sleep, so we engaged in some card games, and then we both agreed to examine the footage once more, suspecting we might have overlooked something. And a realization that proved quite significant. Oh boy, we did. While scrutinizing the recording again, we both perceived a distinct negative aura emanating from the playback. I guess we didn't realize it before because we were overwhelmed by anticipation. We went on anyway, and as we paid more attention, we detected audibly distinct footfalls not belonging to us. Then the image that appeared in the recording is something I still visualize when I shut my eyes. It was the most disturbing visual I had ever encountered. The view was trained on Sarah, and directly behind her a form materialized that resembled a warped, semi-human entity. It possessed intensely glowing pale eyes that created the chilling impression of observing us directly through the screen. At that point, we ceased the playback immediately. We were both utterly stunned. We were unable to inform my sleeping parent, being so early in the morning. We both resolved to keep the discovery private and confidential. Even though we avoided re-entering that lower level altogether, we still discuss it intermittently, and it occasionally appears in our dreams to this day. I remain uncertain if it was mere fantasy or if an entity was genuinely present with us in that cellar. But I maintain my resolve to never descend there once more. Esta secuencia de eventos se desarrolló en Halloween a mediados de la década de 2010. Soy Alex, oriundo de una pequeña comunidad cerca de, nombre de una ciudad diferente de Ohio. Asistía a nombre de una escuela secundaria diferente, situada a poca distancia en coche de mi residencia. Nombre de un pueblo diferente. Era un pueblo pequeño, generalmente agradable, con habitantes en su mayoría decentes. But an element of undesirable individuals could be encountered if one knew where to search. The most notable location for such encounters was the different park name. Everyone was aware that the state park had an unfortunate reputation for unsettling incidents and disappearances. Now, I had visited the park numerous times with peers without incident, so I never gave it much thought. I held many fond recollections of the locale, actually, like the many times my friends and I cycled along the paths, experimented with small pyrotechnics in the forested areas, or fished in the water. However, advancing to my final year at high school name, specifically on Halloween, my friend Liam and I witnessed a more sinister aspect of park name. The summer before my final year, I had joined the military reserve, necessitating regular physical conditioning to stay fit. So that day, I invited my close friend Liam to accompany me for training on the park paths after school, and he agreed, as he also likes to maintain his fitness when possible. It was probably around late afternoon when I arrived at one of the vehicle areas to await Liam. That's when I observed an older gray sedan occupied by a man with a receding hairline and an unsettling presence, loitering conspicuously in the lot. Aware that undesirable individuals sometimes frequented parks, I shot a glance to ascertain his activity, only to realize he was fixated on me, maintaining an unblinking gaze. It was a deeply unnerving look, suggesting predatory interest and causing me significant discomfort. His eyes were wide, and his mouth seemed set in either a grimace or perhaps a slight smile. Our eyes met, and he offered a small nod, seemingly as a greeting but without relinquishing his intense gaze. I nodded back but averted my gaze due to the palpable discomfort. However, I detected from my periphery that his scrutiny persisted. At that juncture, having reached my limit, I rapidly exited the area. I departed the lot only to notice in my mirror that he was trailing me. This caused me to accelerate sharply, and I raced towards the high school lot, successfully losing him. I contacted Liam, explaining my location at the high school and warning him he might encounter this individual alone. A wave of dread washed over me. I received a message from Liam indicating his arrival, so I returned to the location. Sure enough, just as I pulled in, I saw Liam's vehicle, and 2 spots over, the unnerving man in the gray sedan was still observing us. I signaled Liam to follow my vehicle to an alternative parking area at the park, and we made our way over there. We felt secure, or so we initially believed, and exited our cars and descended a small incline to survey the paths before undertaking our run. I prefer not to have objects in my pockets while running, so we started back up the slope when we spotted the older gray sedan repeatedly driving around the lot, seemingly searching for us. From our position on the rise, he evidently couldn't locate us, though we had a clear view of him. We lingered for a short while before ascending, reasoning that 2 individuals in good physical condition could handle one potential threat. As we reached the summit, his vehicle was no longer present. Feeling reasonably secure, Liam and I opted to proceed with the run, but I secured a substantial stick to use for self-defense as a measure of personal reassurance should we encounter the potential assailant in the forested area. I remain unaware of the man's true purpose, but considering the park's unsavory reputation and his unsettling appearance, his intentions were likely malicious. Presently, I've completed my studies at high school name, serve in a military reserve unit, and attend different university name. On occasion, when I return to my hometown, I sometimes drive around at night and check the state park, curious about who might be there. I carry a bladed tool and maintain my physical fitness, yet the experience still leaves me feeling apprehensive. I anticipate I might face a similar situation again someday, but I'm not foolish. Should I encounter something like that, I will immediately leave the area once again. Therefore, I advise anyone planning camping or hiking trips in state parks to ensure they have some means of protection, practice self-defense awareness, and ideally avoid going by themselves. Adyacente a mi área de dormir había un amplio hueco de almacenamiento empotrado en la pared. Carecía de un punto de entrada convencional con bisagras como cabría esperar. En cambio, era un gran panel sin manijas que se podía quitar agarrándolo por los lados y simplemente tirando de él. Esta historia tuvo lugar hace unos años, cuando yo era un adolescente tardío. Recuerdo la ocurrencia inicial. Me retiré a dormir y desperté a la mañana siguiente para descubrir el panel entreabierto, apoyado contra el marco de madera de mi cama. Esto no era del todo sin precedentes, ya que ocasionalmente se había movido antes. Después de todo, no había bisagras ni pestillos que lo aseguraran. Deslicé el panel de nuevo a su abertura y me preparé para el día. La noche siguiente me desperté abruptamente a altas horas de la noche. Tuve la clara impresión de que me había despertado un sonido. Me senté, examinando la tenue habitación, y vi que el panel estaba de nuevo apoyado contra el marco de la cama. Ahora me preocupaba que los bordes del hueco pudieran estar desgastándose, impidiendo que el panel encajara de forma segura como antes. Lo dejé así durante la noche antes de reajustarlo por la mañana. La noche siguiente me resultó difícil conciliar el sueño. Después de quizás 1 o 2 horas de dar vueltas intentando dormir, un fuerte impacto me sobresaltó, y al instante reconocí la causa. Incluso en la penumbra pude discernir el panel cayendo abierto una vez más. Mi paciencia se había agotado con este problema. Resolví internamente simplemente dejarlo entreabierto de ahora en adelante. Luego detecté un sutil crujido de tela desde dentro del espacio de almacenamiento. Mi corazón al instante comenzó a latir al oír esto. La habitación estaba completamente libre de corrientes de aire, así que no era el viento. Con vacilación activé la luz de la habitación y miré dentro del hueco ahora abierto. Mi miedo más profundo se hizo realidad al vislumbrar una figura dentro del espacio de almacenamiento, observándome en mi cama. En una fracción de segundo después de que se encendiera la luz, la figura intentó ocultarse como si no se la viera. Estaba paralizado. Lo único que pude hacer fue gritar pidiendo a mi padre. Mi grito fue lo suficientemente fuerte como para que mi padre llegara a mi habitación rápidamente. Señalé hacia el hueco y él examinó su interior. Solo entonces, con él presente, me sentí lo suficientemente seguro como para levantarme y posicionarme detrás de él. Mi padre revisó a fondo el espacio, incluso gateando hasta el fondo, but found no one. He emerged and attempted to reassure me I had simply imagined it, causing me to doubt my own perception. Nonetheless, I was unable to remain in that room. I slept on the floor in my parents' living area, wrapped in a blanket. However, I would hardly call it sleeping, as shortly after I settled down, I heard my bedroom door down the hall creak open, followed by the distinct sound of someone sprinting down the stairs and exiting the front door, slamming it forcefully behind them. My parents heard this commotion, and it was only at that point that they accepted my account. We attempted to pursue the individual, but they had vanished. It was later deduced he must have been concealed within a large bin or box inside the storage area.